Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Welcome to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin filling in for Sam Shad. Joining me today is Senator Ira Hansen, Senate District 14. Next on an all-new Nevada Newsmakers.
Love and luck are in the air at Carson Valley Inn. $1,000 winners guaranteed every drawing night. Up to $7,500 every Saturday. And $15,000 in grand prize giveaways Friday, March 31st. It's the Love and Luck giveaways at the Carson Valley Inn.
Big R in Sparks is located on Bering Boulevard next to Smith's and across from Reed High School. It's a 50,000 square foot hardware store and a whole lot more. It's huge, with clothing, power equipment, tools, and of course, hardware. Big R is located on Bering Boulevard in Sparks, next to Smith's and opposite Reed High School. Big R, hardware, and a whole lot more.
Save money and take transit. Did you know you can ride the bus all day for less than what it would cost you for a gallon of gas? Plan your trip now by going to rtcwashoe.com.
As you know, Reno is booming. Toll's Development Company is helping it grow with insightful design and development, building community with every project, adding beauty, adding excitement, emphasizing our shared humanity. Reno is becoming bigger. Toll's Development is helping it become better, more livable, more enjoyable. To learn more, go to tollsdevelopment.com. tollsdevelopment.com.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2023 legislative session is brought to you by Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine one smile at a time. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. The Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, your RTC, our community. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. And by Nevada Builders Alliance, building a better Nevada.
This is Nevada Newsmakers with host Sam Shad, a no-holds-barred political forum. Now, from the Nevada Newsmakers broadcast headquarters, here is Sam Shad.
And welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin filling in for Sam Shad. With me today is Senator Ira Hansen from Senate District 14, kind of all over the place in northern Nevada. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for the invitation. Glad to be here.
So I want to get right into what I did during the legislative session. Other times it's great to gossip about politics and that sort of thing, but now we got details to talk about, and the devil is always in the details. And so I want to talk about some of the bills that you've sponsored and some of the legislation that's out there. And I want to get right into SB 136, which is a bill that you sponsored to limit the emergency powers of the governor. Tell us about that.
Well, as everybody in Nevada knows, during the COVID crisis, the governor shut down a lot of very, in my opinion, good businesses that should have remained open. And what we want to do at the legislative level is limit the executive branch's authority to do that without some level of oversight by the legislature.
So what specifically does SB 136 do?
I'm not sure the actual details, to be honest. I'm sorry, I should have read the bill more because I haven't even had a hearing yet on it. My understanding is, look, the governor typically gets 2 weeks to a month in these bills. Several Republicans have advanced this. Mm-hmm. Typically it's 2 weeks to a month to do what needs to be done. After that, the authority shifts to the counties or in some cases to the state legislature so that we have some level of oversight. Because as you know, what happened during that whole crisis was the governor literally got to pick and choose. Ironically, things like churches got shut down, but brothels were left open, okay? Right. So when you start seeing situations like that, you're going, hey, wait a minute. And then there were a lot of businesses that were shut down that didn't need to be shut down, especially in hindsight, we know. So when you have a crisis like that, I can understand the governor wanting to, be on the side of caution, but then to continue that kind of policy when it's completely clear now that there's no need to be shutting down the entire business community to protect people from COVID.
Well, and regardless of that, with respect to any kind of emergency declaration, one of the things, you were one of the most outspoken legislators during COVID about these emergency powers and that sort of thing.
Right.
The governor's emergency powers didn't end until until he wasn't the governor anymore, and Governor Lombardo rescinded them. So, but where was the legislature in 2021? You were speaking out against it, but where were the other legislators in asserting their own power? I'm surprised that did not happen.
Well, you got to understand, the Assembly and Senate were controlled by the Democrats. Sisolak was a Democrat, and they weren't going to buck the governor. So the reason I did, look, just so you know, my oldest son is an anesthesiologist. He was actually did his residency at Mayo Clinic. He was actually one of the doctors selected to go back east to New Jersey and New York when the whole situation got totally out of control back there to represent Nevada. So I had an inside track on what the medical community was thinking about COVID and what worked and what didn't. So for me, I had more knowledge, frankly, than the average Nevada legislator. But also, I was in the minority party, and we represent the business community, you know. And the Democrats just flat out weren't. Okay, they were going to do whatever Governor Sisolak wanted. And so and honestly, all of my fellow Republicans were absolutely frustrated trying to get the business community back open, because it didn't make any sense to us, especially once we realized how the disease spread, how ineffective masks were, things like that. And then, of course, when President Trump came out with Operation Warp Speed, and you had the shots that we could take, there was no logical reason to leave all that power in the hands of the governor and really harm small businesses all across Nevada.
Right. So let me ask you this, though, sort of a devil's advocate thing. Even if there was a bill in place that required some oversight or required some acquiescence from the legislature, given the politics and the dynamic of the party in power, would that have changed anything, do you think, in 2021?
I could have, yeah. Well, 2021, you know, at that point, I guess the answer would be no, simply because we were in the minority status. What should have happened, though, and where the governor, especially Sisolak, really abused his authority, you should have shifted some power back to the counties, okay? Elko County, for example, part of my district, absolutely said, look, this is crazy. You can't be shutting down all our business communities. And then county commissioners who meet and live literally with the people all day long, they got blocked out completely. And then to make matters worse, as you recall, the governor was going to use the Nevada OSHA people to go in and revoke their state business licenses so they wouldn't be able to even open. And the counties that fought back, Elko fought back, what did Sisolak do? He then said he was going to cut off the funds for the county that come from the state. So that kind of top-down management and that sort of dictatorial attitude really, frankly, it cost the governor his reelection.
Well, as it should have. I mean, it was it was authoritarian, and it was
totally out of control. And it wasn't. You know, look, let's have some harmony, okay? In a crisis, I got it. The governor is the first line of defense. But after that, you've got 63 legislators who represent the rest of the state. We should have had some say in the whole matter too. We got shut off completely.
Right. And had you had say in the matter, there would have been hearings, there would have been debate, there would have been, the policy, I think, would have been a lot more effective, at least I'd hope so, than simply one guy trying to make decisions, because I don't think anybody is qualified.
Well, and if you recall, too, that whole crisis for people not being able to get their unemployment payments, I mean, that was a huge, it still is to some degree, because, you know, the amount of fraud that was involved in that, it's allegedly in the billions of dollars.
So let me ask you,
there's angles to that as well.
Let me ask you this, though. Given, again, the political dynamics of this legislature and this makeup, is there any real chance that these powers are going to be limited?
Well, the irony is now you have a Republican governor, so that you think a Democratic majority in both houses, they would want to. And I know Governor Lombardo, I think, is in favor of it because our party wants that. We don't want this top-down management. Like I said, initial crisis, give them a couple weeks, a month, got it. After that, you've got to have involvement from the communities and at least at the very minimal, the fellow legislators that are involved with all the people at a grassroots level.
All right. And with that, we're going to take a little break. We'll be right back.
Win some Leprechaun loot during the $75,000 All Cash Go Green giveaways. More than 150 winners in all. Find your pot of gold with $15,000 in weekly cash giveaways guaranteed. And $25,000 in grand prize giveaways, including a $15,000 cash top prize. It's a good time to win at Tamarack Casino.
Retail's impact on Nevada's economy? Enormous. 8,600 businesses, large and small, employing 145,000 workers. And last fiscal year, retail paid tax on nearly $60 billion in sales. We're the Retail Association of Nevada. We support retail, we help it grow, and we mean business.
RANNV.org.
The Do It Right guys at Nevada Heating have one mission. Your furnace breaks down today? We fix it today. Why freeze for days while your furnace is down when Nevada Heating can get the job done today and you can get warm again? For nearly 50 years, locally owned Nevada Heating has been getting the job done right. Call today at 323-5585 and we'll fix it today. That's 323-5585 or online at nevadaheating.com.
Hi, I'm Renee Summerauer, digital news anchor here at 7 at 7. Watch our streaming nonstop newscast immediately with your mobile phone. 7 at 7 is the new way for you to get every bit of local news you need in just 7 minutes. Breaking news, local neighborhood news, weather, and sports are just a click away. Reporters bring you all of what's happening in the Valley. From Roku, Amazon Fire, Apple TV, YouTube, and more. Get every bit of local news you need from the RJ and LVRJ.com.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. With me, if you're just joining us, is Senator Ira Hansen from Senate District 14. So, Senator, I want to talk about a couple bills that you sponsored regarding crime and punishment, or maybe not necessarily crime because one of them involves kids. And specifically, I want to talk about SB 152, which makes it easier to discipline, even in some cases expel certain students. So tell us about this, where it came from, and what it's all about.
Actually goes back to Tyrone Thompson. I don't know if you remember, he passed away during the session. He had a bill to essentially almost eliminate the ability of schools to expel people. Excuse me. I was the only legislator that voted against that out of all 63, and it ended up being a big disaster. Right now you have kids assaulting teachers, and then they're back in the schools, or they're shifted to another school, and it got to the point where even the teachers' unions, the school boards, everybody wants to have significant changes in that law, and that's what that really boils down to, an attempt to restore some balance in that whole process.
Do you think, based on the consequences of that there's going to be some changes, that this bill is going to get some traction?
Yes. Actually, as you know, my wife, Assemblywoman Alexis Hansen, has a bill in the Assembly that's already, I think she's got probably a third of the Democrats to co-sponsor the bill because everybody recognizes the serious problem. So I think this bill, this is just your classic cleanup, okay? You pass the bill in one session. Now that the consequences of that bill have been felt in the entire Nevada public school system and it's been a disaster, we're going back and saying, okay, we're going to give some authority back to and give some really, occasionally have some kids that flat out need to be expelled, need to be seriously punished. And the way that bill was structured, they couldn't do that. And they would transfer them to a different school. So yeah, this will clean that up, and I think this will pass.
So what are the details about it? What is happening right now that's going to change, or that you would like to see change via this?
My understanding is when a child, for example, a student assaults a teacher, or is just constant, completely incorrigible in a class, the teachers will be able to get that kid to a disciplinary thing without then having a whole bunch of other things come in before they can get to actually disciplining the child and protecting the other students and the teachers in the classroom. That's the goal of all that. How it all plays out in the end is who knows. I do know this, that the school districts, without exception, want some dramatic changes in the current law that was Tyrone's bill.
Okay. As a devil's advocate thing, what about those, if they're acting out, they're young kids, they're probably dealing with some trauma and some other stuff and that sort of thing. What do we do about those kids?
Well, ultimately, you got to protect the kids that aren't having problems. Remember, the purpose of the public schools isn't to serve as sort of a juvenile correction facility. It's to educate kids. And when you have kids in the classroom that are consistently disruptive, yes, you're right. They may have serious problems at home, and that's carrying over to the schools. But when it begins to impact the ability of a teacher to teach the other children in the classroom, then you have a significant situation in that, wait, do we worry entirely about this one kid and then the other 24 kids in the classroom are getting an inferior education, or even a student that is intimidating the teacher or saying hateful things all the time? You got to, in our day, I don't know, you're not as old as me, but I got paddled by the principal back in 4th grade, all right? So the world's changed to
you went to a tougher school than me, then.
Thank you, Howard Espinosa, my Robert Mitchell Elementary principal. No, actually, in all seriousness, we've swung to the other extreme, right? And we forgot what the real purpose of the education system is. It's to educate kids. It's not to provide some sort of mechanism to help children that are having admittedly often horrible home lives. I don't want to punish them, but in the sense that, you know, we should exclude them. But we've got so much of our efforts diverted away from the core function of the education system that we're now harming our kids. Remember, we're 50th in the nation in education, okay? So the real goal should be, let's get the hell out of the bottom rung that we've been. I mean, they used to say, thank God for Mississippi. Now they say, thank God for Nevada, because we're worse than everybody else in the entire country. That should be our goal, getting our kids the best possible education, and things that are obstacles to that, such as kids that are just flat out of control, then you got to get them out of the system or do something to where they're not disrupting everybody else in the process.
Well, and it makes sense. It's interesting to hear that, because so often you see the focus on children in need and that sort of thing. I'm a criminal defense attorney. They become my clients. They become wider problems. But oftentimes I think you're right, that there's not a conversation about all the other kids and about kind of a global allocation of resources and a big picture stuff. And so,
well, on Tyrone's bill, back to wonderful man. I got along great with him. We served on education together. He was actually, when I was chair of judiciary, he was one of the members of my committee. But we swung the other way too far, okay? We went to where the focus got too much on how do we help this kid who's going to be a problem all the way maybe down to where he needs criminal defense attorneys in the future. But in the meantime, the other kids in the classroom are getting a second-class education or disrupted in their needs. We need to focus a little more on that and get a balance back in that equation. That's the goal of the types of legislation like that. And there are several.
All right, fair enough. And we need to take a break, but we'll be right back.
Take a look at Pro Group Management and see how your workers' comp requirements can be met head-on. By taking a proactive approach, Pro Group can assure that your company is meeting or exceeding state and federal standards. As you move forward in your industry, Pro Group moves with you, simplifying regulatory tasks, clearing the way so you can get the job done and look to your future success. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you.
Early in the morning or throughout the night, professional truck drivers are on the job, serving you, safely moving freight that's crucial to our economy. From the oldest industries to our newest innovators, from the exotic to the everyday, trucks are everywhere, moving everything. Never afraid to embrace a future that makes Nevada and our nation stronger. Trucking moves America forward.
What do you count on? You count on your power every day. At NV Energy, we've always powered what's important to you, but we're not looking at the past. We're focused on the future. While our standards are high, our rates will remain low. And our commitment to renewables isn't just meeting standards, but leading the way. Because you can count on more than just your power. You can count on the company who brings it to you. That's our promise. You can count on it.
Imagine a magical garden that feeds Carson City's hungry and homeless, teaches our high school students agriculture, creates hanging floral displays to beautify downtown, and yet charges nothing. It's not magic. It's the Greenhouse Project. It's real, it's growing, and it needs your help. Go online to carsоncitygreenhouse.org so together we can grow it forward.
This is Nevada Newsmakers.
And welcome back to Nevada Newsmakers. This is Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. If you're just joining us, with me is Senator Ira Hansen from Senate District 14. So, Senator, you have some bills that at first blush seem like kind of little things that I think have broader implications, or at least that are very interesting to me as an attorney. And so one of these is SB 141. Which innocuously is labeled, regulations involving wildlife or something. But tell us about this with hunting licenses.
Well, it has been an interesting one because it actually was. The original intent was to simply allow you to have a hunting license in your phone. Everybody does everything electronically now. The way the law currently reads, you still have to have a physical paper license with you. So that was the original intent of the bill. However, as I got into the weeds on the bill, I discovered we have a section of law that actually says you have to, if a warden comes up to you, not only show your license, but you have to show them anything you have, guns, ammunition, apparatus. And if you don't do that, they can cite you for hindering, okay? And the reason I bring that up is constitutionally, for example, as you and I were driving down here, a cop can't randomly pull us over and say, let me see your driver's license, right? And then say, well, let me see what else is in your car. And you're a defense attorney, you have to have some level of probable cause. But in the wildlife world, they don't have to have that. And that bill, or that law actually goes back to the 1950s prior to Miranda and some of the Supreme Court decisions. So what I found out what we need to do, frankly, is make sure you have a Fourth Amendment right against unreasonable searches. You got, like the poor cops, if they want to pull over Orrin or Ira, they got to have a reason to pull us over. You can't just randomly say, I want to see your driver's license. Then you have the Fifth Amendment protection against incriminating yourself. You think about, it's actually section 502120 in the Nevada Revised Statutes. If I don't incriminate myself, you could give me a citation for it under current Nevada law. So anyway, that's an interesting aspect to that initially wasn't part of the bill, but has become one since.
Is that getting traction? Is that
I got a hearing, so who knows? Now here's the thing:
fair.
we have a lot of very aggressive civil libertarian lawyers on the Democratic and Republican side.
Really,
so I
that's
think,
good.
yeah, I think it has a good chance of passing. And even if it doesn't pass in my bill, maybe somebody will put that in. And plus, it also, we've let the law enforcement people know, look, you can't just randomly stop people and ask them a bunch of questions, and then if they exercise their right to remain silent, then give them a citation for hindering.
Well, and let's talk more about civil liberties with another bill you have, is SB 188, which is allowing people to do what they should be able to do and carry, if they have a CCW, carry on campus.
That's a very interesting one.
So what's going on with that bill?
Well, that actually goes back to the 2015 session. I was chair of Judiciary. On my Judiciary Committee was Michelle Fiore. Michelle actually very aggressively pushed the CCW law. Interestingly enough, Governor Sandoval didn't want it, okay? So we had a bit of a fight. We got it out of our House on a party line vote, but it died in the Senate. We went to the Judiciary Committee, chaired by Greg Brower. Brian Sandoval made it clear he didn't want that bill passed. The higher ed people didn't want it either. And I don't think it's a coincidence that he's now the head of the higher ed folks at UNR. I don't even know if the bill will get a hearing. But here's the interesting part. At the time that we had that law in 2015, I think there were 3 other states that had it. There are 11 states now that have it. And all the predictions that, you have drunk frat boys shooting up the campus or something, none of that has come to pass. And more importantly, from a civil liberties perspective, the Supreme Court has now established you have an individual constitutional right under the Second Amendment to have things like firearms. It's ironic, too, that in the college campuses, where traditionally they push the Bill of Rights concept, especially the First Amendment, to the most radical extremes, right? You can burn flags.
Do they do that anymore, though? I mean, quite frankly, free speech on campus is dead these days.
Well, that's a whole other
really
argument. You're completely correct. The whole concept of hate speech, that's totally evolved away from free speech. But traditionally, the campuses were where you had an opportunity to exercise those rights to the nth degree. But when it comes to the Second Amendment, somehow you can't. And anyway, I don't know if we'll get a hearing on it, but absolutely. The other interesting thing, CCWs, when the concept first came out, law enforcement community didn't like them. They were worried about it. Now guess who the biggest champions are?
Are they?
The law enforcement, absolutely. Why? Because everywhere you've had CCWs, you've seen crime drop. Because now the criminals don't know who's carrying, who's not.
And is that the case here in Nevada? Because I don't know that that's always been my experience.
My understanding, I haven't seen the stats in a while, but I think that has been, at least as far as support of these kind of bills, law enforcement community no longer opposes CCW expansion.
So we got about a minute and a half. Is there any other, what are the kind of the defensive stops or other legislative priorities or other things that you're working on or looking towards or a priority for you?
Oh, what's a priority? Honestly, like I said earlier, my job at this point is to try to block bad stuff, okay? The ability to get a CCW law passed, probably minimal, right? Because we're in the minority in both houses. There are a ton of election reforms that have been introduced by Republicans, not even hearings being scheduled. My goal is to get those kind of things cleaned up as best as possible and get them on the ballot. We're going to have some ballot initiatives in the future on election reform, which is absolutely necessary. We haven't even talked about the mapping because, the Republican Party was very, very competitive statewide, but my wife serves in a super minority status, and I'm one person away from being in the super minority status, and that's because the way those maps are drawn.
So is there any,
district maps.
The fact that the governor is now a Republican, is there interaction with the legislature that may change that and have some more balance there?
Yeah, it helps. But the governor is fully aware that if even one Republican senator goes AWOL, then he is basically neutered. The executive branch has no ability at that point to have influence.
And that inspires this question. You talked about civil libertarians kind of everywhere. Both parties are a little bit fractured right now in Nevada. Do you see any movement away from this sort of very tribal cohesiveness where maybe there's going to be some more compromise, or that there's not going to be just these party line votes in every instance?
No, I don't, unfortunately. And honestly, with the Republican Party, we are much more independent. Like me, my views, I don't go and answer to anybody. The Democratic National Committee is absolutely dictating the major policies that are going through the Nevada legislature right now. Right. And that's a major change from the past.
And that's all the time that we have. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Modern boutique Ahern Hotel and Event Center sits at the heart of the Las Vegas Strip. 2 floors of meeting and event space are ideal for groups and conventions. Stay in one of 200 luxurious rooms and suites. Brand your event throughout the property. Flexible event spaces make for easy planning and personalization. Take over the entire hotel with a full buyout option.
With Nevada's only transplant center and verified burn center, the science is here. With award-winning cardiologist and the state's only dedicated heart failure clinic, the talent is here. With Nevada's most advanced robotic surgery, the technology is here. And with the Silver State's only designated pediatric trauma center, hope is here. All because we are here. UMC.
Snorkel personnel lifts are engineered beyond the industry norm to an uncommon level of safety and durability, and with an eye towards sustainability. They're also designed to be simple to operate and maintain. Snorkel, always at the cutting edge of progress.
Win some Leprechaun loot during the $75,000 all-cash Go Green giveaways. More than 150 winners in all. Find your pot of gold with $15,000 in weekly cash giveaways guaranteed. And $25,000 in grand prize giveaways, including a $15,000 cash top prize. It's a good time to win at Tamarack Casino.
When in Carson City, Nevada Newsmakers records in the conference room at the Bank Saloon. Coverage of the 2023 legislative session is brought to you by Liberty Dental Plan, making members shine, one smile at a time. Pro Group Management, workers' comp that works for you. The Regional Transportation Commission of Washoe County, your RTC, our community. NV Energy, proudly serving Nevada, providing electricity to 2.4 million electric customers. And by Nevada Builders Alliance, building a better Nevada.
That's all the time we have for today. Thank you so much for joining us. This has been Orrin Johnson filling in for Sam Shad. You can join us 24/7 at NevadaNewsmakers.com. We'll see you next time.